anxiety makes me poop. Listen, again, I've started this one like 10 times already because I just kept rambling and rambling. We're going to try this again. I don't know. I just ramble. That's just what I do. And y'all come back for it. And I love you for that. So thank you for that. Listen, I won't really want to talk about what's been going on with me health-wise the past couple months because I am feeling better. But I have to wait for Cass on this one because she would just make it so much better. And so we'll talk about that. I had a hormone issue. I had an iron deficiency problem. I was sleeping. It was crazy. We're going to get to that one. Today, we're going to talk about something similar to what we've talked about before. Now, I think we're on like episode 137. So, it may sound familiar in just kind of a different context maybe, but you know what? It could have been like 100 episodes ago. So we're going to revisit it. So I'm going to call this one the common denominator. And what that means is we're going to talk about the word blame. Specifically, people who blame everything and everyone for what's happening in their lives, except themselves. It's never their fault. It's everyone else's. It's never their fault. It's what's happening in their life. And listen, don't start pointing to people. Don't get comfortable pointing at someone in your life because we're also going to talk about where we're going with this and how to keep ourselves healthy. Okay? Because growth requires mirrors. All right. So let's just talk about the pattern that nobody wants to see. Maybe you do know a person. Maybe it's you and you're trying to make yourself better, which is great. Thank you for listening. Maybe it's the person that says, it's not my diet, it's the food industry. They always put all this stuff in. That's why I can't lose any weight. Or I'm overweight because of what they put in our food. Or how about healthy food is just way too expensive. I can't go buy a salad. I need to go buy a burger and get my protein in. Or my body just doesn't respond like other people's. I am completely different. Or maybe they blame their thyroid. I can say that. I had a thyroid issue. I still do. I've heard it from a lot of people. Oh no, I am 40 pounds overweight because of my thyroid. Listen, I totally get it, but I fought to lose the 40 pounds when I had a thyroid problem, so it can be done. Or how about the friend that has 10 jobs in 5 years because every boss is toxic? I'm putting that in quotes. Or every workplace was unprofessional. Or every manager, every lead had it out for them. At some point, we might have to ask, is it statistically possible that every single environment for this person is the problem? Or are they the common denominator? And I promise you, this is not about shaming people. It's really about talking about patterns. What did I just say? It's really about talking about patterns. Okay, whatever. If the same outcome keeps happening in different environments, it might not be the environment. I've actually talked to a few people about this, and we both have said, or we've, as a group have said, I think there's a common denominator here. Like if you're just seeing a whole bunch of problems, but it's never that person. Yeah. Okay. So the realization for these people it's very uncomfortable, and they may never see it. But the reason why it might be uncomfortable is because they have to look inward. They have to take accountability. And some people are not comfortable doing that. So it's everyone else's fault. But, why do people do this? There's actually psychology behind this. And we're going to call it self-serving bias. Okay? It's when things go well, we'll take the credit. Oh my gosh, that project was amazing. Yeah, because I did it. Or, you lost 5 pounds. Yeah, it was all me. It wasn't anything else. When things go badly, they outsource it immediately. They outsource the responsibility and the accountability immediately. Like, that wasn't me. It was the economy. Or it was the timing. Or that's on them. So I also want to be clear about something. Sometimes it is them. It is the environment, not them. It's the environment. Like, there are toxic jobs out there. There are unfair systems. And there are legitimate barriers. Okay, so let's get that straight. When the pattern is consistent across years and situations, might not be bad luck. That's probably behavior and patterns. Okay? Some people live like life is happening to them. Like I remember I used to say, if I didn't have bad luck at all, I wouldn't have any luck at all, or something like that. If I didn't have bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all. Life used to happen to me. This is why I can talk about it, because it was everybody else's problem. I was doing everything that I could do. Well, no, not until I changed myself. I realized I made better luck. Other people live life like it's happening through them. And that difference is ownership. All right, we're going to flip this just for a second. The anxiety connection about all of this. So we're flipping it now. If you are empathetic, which I'm guessing if you're listening to this podcast or to these episodes, you might feel responsible when someone is struggling. You jump into fixer mode, or maybe you try to give advice, or you send job postings. Maybe you research diets and you send it to them, or maybe even try to do a diet with them. Like, hey, if you don't eat sugar, I won't eat sugar, and you talk about it, you rehearse conversations with them so that it can go your way. And then maybe after the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th crisis, you start realizing that you're not helping because they're not inwardly recognizing. So now you're participating in a cycle. At first, you think that you're being supportive, but by that 10th identical story, you might realize that you're starring in someone else's rerun of this, and it's exhausting, and it causes anxiety, and it might be a best friend, it might be a parent, it might be a sibling, it might be family. Chronic blamers can drain you because they never land anywhere. There's just no solution. I have a perfect example. I once had a friend that would ask for recommendations all the time. And I would say, oh my gosh, yeah, we totally use them or this or whatever for this, we were homeowners, Do you know that every single recommendation that I gave, something happened? And I would get a phone call or a text message saying, you're not going to believe what happened when they were here. Every single time. There is not one time that I can remember that I gave a suggestion or a referral and it worked out for that person. There was always something wrong. Sadly, our friendship has phased out, but they never looked inward. And so I had to stop giving, referrals. But they would ask all the time, like, who do you think, who do you have do this? Who do you have? And I would say, these people are great. They were never good enough. Never good enough. And then I had to hear about it. And then I felt bad about it. Then all of a sudden I was the bad person because, I gave the referral. So, and then, if you're not careful enough, eventually you can get into this, not really become one, but you could get into their pattern, and you definitely don't want to do that, okay? So let's talk about compassion without participation. So this is the shift on this. You care. You listen to someone. You offer insight once or twice. But after that, now for me it was like 10, 20, 30. The friendship was a long time. But after that, you have to observe the pattern. You have to save yourself. You have to keep yourself healthy. So you know that this person blames everyone and everything. They can't keep a job because something happens. They just always seem to have the worst luck. Everyone around them is the problem, right? Or it's their diet, or it's their whatever, or the weather. You can look outside and like right now, even though it's winter here in the Midwest, it is absolutely gorgeous. It's sunny, blue skies, not a cloud. The sun feels so warm, but they could tell you it was a rotten day. You have to observe the pattern. And if they're bringing your attitude down, or if you're starting to realize that maybe you're doing it, might be time to step away. And here's a sentence that I always told myself, and it really does help, okay? Compassion does not require participation. I feel like we may have mentioned that on an earlier episode. Compassion does not require participation. You're allowed to care about someone without carrying someone. I know we've talked about that. You are allowed to say, hey, I love you, but I can't keep having this same conversation, which is exactly what happened to me years ago. It was the same conversation. Because if someone refuses self-reflection, You can't reflect for them. You're not their mirror. Growth is always voluntary for everyone. People want to grow or they don't. There's no in between. Accountability is voluntary. People want to be accountable or they don't. And self-awareness is voluntary. People are self-aware or they're not. There's no in between. And you, if you're the person, looking into this person that blames everything, your nervous system deserves peace. Your soul deserves peace. You can only take so much if you are friends or family with someone that does the blame game, right? It's been around forever, the blame game. So, that wasn't hard enough. Let's talk a few more things. Sometimes we stay in these dynamics because of our own anxiety. You want to be needed. You don't want to cause conflict. You don't want to let them go. You have history. Maybe we think if we just stay one more time, it'll click for them. Or maybe we feel guilty stepping away from them. That's a big one. But you have to protect your energy. It's not being cruel to anybody. You have to protect your energy. And it's maturing. It's just maturing in life. You're not responsible for fixing someone who refuses to look at their own reflection. So the moment that you stop rescuing, you stop reinforcing. Sometimes the most loving thing that you can do is remove the audience from someone's excuse cycle, because you don't want to be that person. I ended up being that person, the person that was blamed. They would say, hey, do you have give me a suggestion on blah, blah, blah. And I would give it, but then all of a sudden it was my fault if something didn't go right. It's almost like setting people up on a blind date and it doesn't work. I did that a couple times too. It didn't work. No more blind dates ever again. Not going to do it. All right. So before we end all this, are you someone that plays the blame game? Have you looked back at maybe just a past couple weeks? Maybe you've been watching your weight for 2026. Maybe you have a job that isn't great, but you also kind of look back and think, yeah, the last 5 jobs weren't great. Maybe you're just not in the right role. Maybe you got to find a different role that you're going to excel in. Maybe you just completely need to change your habits. Maybe you have to stop hanging out with people that have bad habits. Maybe there's a group of people that you go out with and it's always pizza and beer. Maybe your body, if you want your body to be healthy, needs something different than that. Just think about it. Step back for a second and say, am I a blame game kind of person? Or can you take accountability? Look in the mirror and take accountability. Okay. On the other side, if you're part of their pattern, maybe you can just say, hey, I don't have any more referrals for you. Hey, I just don't have time today. Or, hey, you know what? I'm going to let you figure this one out on your own. Right? And then step away from being part of the equation. It might feel freeing. It might feel a little rough at times. But here's just what you can take away. If something keeps happening in your life, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what role am I playing in this? Whether it's to look at yourself, because maybe everyone else is to blame, or you're part of that person's pattern. Either way, what role am I playing in this? How am I going to keep myself healthy? Or on the other side, how am I going to stop blaming everyone and everything around me and start looking at myself inwardly? Empower yourself in either way. Say, you know what? Maybe I'm not losing that weight because I put crap ton of dressing on my salad. Well, that could be 500 calories. That's half your day. Well, not, you know what I mean. Or maybe, like I said, you go out to pizza every other day. That could be the issue. Maybe it's the fried chicken. Or you know what? Maybe it's, maybe you just don't get along with certain leaders, certain managers, certain whatever. So maybe you need to change up roles. Maybe you have to look at stuff like that. And then if you're someone that's dealing with someone that refuses to look inward, you can love them, but you might need to walk away. Don't lose yourself trying to solve what they won't face. Your peace is not being selfish. It's necessary. So go take the time for yourself. Whether you're someone that seems to always have the bad luck, maybe take a look at why you're having all this bad luck. Look inward, look at the mirror. If you're someone within another person's pattern, step away for a little bit, let them figure it out. Save your inner peace, save your soul, save your mind. Again, compassion does not require participation. You can love someone without rehearsing the same crisis every month with them. Talk to you next time.